All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first NEXTTECH 2021. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you here today to hear about the next challenges that are coming from the Air Force Research Lab. The NEXTTECH program we launched in 2020 to bring technology and innovation solutions to federal agencies and corporations. We recognized that we wanted to help our minority-owned companies enter the supply chain a little bit further up, that is in the research and development part of the supply chain. So we thought that NEXTTECH would be an excellent way for our federal agencies and our corporations to submit challenges that they have in their innovation space, and then we would identify minority-owned companies, or MBEs, to respond to these challenges. Thus, we launched NEXTTECH 2020 in May of last year. Since then, we've had the Department of Energy, Zell Technologies, Georgia Green Energy Solutions, and our own Air Force Research Laboratory, who is returning for the second time with more challenges. Thank you, Dr. David Stark. I'd like to acknowledge my staff, Aisha Jones, who is our event planner, Brandy Nagel, who is the program manager in charge of NEXTTECH, and Jamarcus King of JNF Alliance, who is on our team to help us pull NEXTTECH together. We're really excited about this program. We're beginning to see some results, and we know that it's going to take a little bit more time because, again, we are matching MBEs to our corporations and federal agencies in the research and development phase with challenges. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how you can follow up at the end of the program. This is just the agenda. I'm going to go just a really brief overview for those of you who are not familiar with the MBDA Manufacturing Center, Advanced Manufacturing Center, as well as our MBDA Business Center. I want to start by thanking Comcast, EPCO, and Train Technologies for their continued support of not just this NEXTTECH program, but of all of our MBDA programs. They really have stepped up to financially support our initiatives with the minority business community. As many of you know, we are the MBDA centers at Georgia Tech. We have 2 centers at Georgia Tech, and the mission of not only our centers but of the MBDA is to help minority businesses grow significantly, create and retain jobs, and really become sustainable. You know, we do believe that as we achieve our mission, this will contribute positively to the impact, and positively impact our communities and the nation at large. Here's our national network. We are a national network of 40+ centers and special projects, all focused again on growing and strengthening MBEs. We have 4 specialties. We have 4 advanced manufacturing centers, 1 here at Georgia Tech, 1 in Dallas, in Texas, 1 in Baltimore and Detroit, and we have 4 export centers that focus on particular parts of the world, that is Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. Then we also have a federal procurement center, so for those of you who are doing business with the federal government or are looking to, we do have a center in D.C. that we work with to help our companies secure a federal contract. Here's our team. I'm not going to go through everyone. You've met Jamarcus early was on, and Brandy was on, as well as Aisha Jones. But we just have a vast team of companies and individuals who are dedicated to support this effort. I do want to highlight Anthony Jackson, that we recently brought on board as our manufacturing advisor. So for those of you who are manufacturers, he is a manufacturer who has led and owned a number of manufacturing firms. He is a chemical engineer, a Georgia Tech alum. So feel free to connect with him if you have some manufacturing issues or concerns or projects that you want to talk with him. And I'd also like to recognize Dr. Billy D. Brown, who is one of our manufacturing advisors and program advisors from the Georgia Tech Manufacturing Institute. And so Dr. Brown is helping us provide more programming for our companies. Anita Davis and Jennifer Passy are our finance contractors who focus on helping our companies grow financially. And then we have our other staff, Lauren, Tawan, Doreen from Kincaid, and Aisha, of course, Brandy. We're all part of Georgia Tech staff. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. David Stargo. As you can see his bio, and this is a short version of his bio, but we want to really welcome him. He is the Deputy Chief Scientist, as you can see, of the 711th Human Performance Wing of the Air Force Research Lab and the Air Force Material Command. I'll have Dr. Stargo introduce himself in depth, but I again want to thank you. He's been an undying supporter of this program and has returned a second time with some challenges. So without further ado, I introduce Dr. Stargo.
Thank you, Donna. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you and your team. You guys provide an invaluable service to the community, and I hope we continue partnering in the future. Welcome, everybody. Again, I'm going to keep this a little bit informal since we have a small group. My name is David. I am the Deputy Chief Scientist at the 711th Human Performance Wing. As she mentioned, I've worked a lot with small businesses throughout my career through the SBIR program, as well as in direct contracts and grants. So I'm very excited to come in and talk to you about the Air Force Research Laboratory in general, and specifically about two challenges that I was asked just to bring and talk about. But I want you to keep in mind that just those two challenges are not the only challenges that we have as an Air Force, and I'll give you some links to some other sites because we have a broad technology need across a lot of different areas that I won't be able to cover today. So for those of you who don't know about the Air Force Research Laboratory, we are the primary research arm for the U.S. Air Force, and we are headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. That's where I am, where we also have our Sensors Directorate, our Aerospace Systems Directorate, and our Materials and Manufacturing Directorate. I work for the Human Performance Wing, so we do everything that has to do with human performance, whether it's decision-making or psychology or enhancing and augmenting performance, anything that has to do with the airmen in the system, we deal with it. We also have some geographically separated units. In New York, we have our Information Directorate that deals with everything on information. In D.C., we have our Office of Scientific Research, which handles all of the basic research for the U.S. Air Force. Down in Eglin Air Force Base, we have our Munitions Directorate. And out in Kirkland, we have our Space Vehicles Directorate and our Directed Energy Directorate as well. We also have some offices that are outside of the U.S. That help us canvass the world for technology insertion into the Air Force. And those offices are in Santiago, Chile, London, Tokyo, and we have a Maui research site that does a lot of space research as well. As you see, we're a large organization. We have almost 10,000 employees in general across the board between civilian and military. And we are a military organization, but the majority of our members are civilian federal workforce folks that just work for the Air Force. We do a lot across the side with industry partnerships, so we definitely like to work with both large and small businesses. We do a lot of CRADAs, cooperative R&D agreements to do cooperative research and development with businesses. And then we partner a lot with universities. So just working with Georgia Tech and the MBDA and other organizations, we do use those as a conduit to reach out to the broader community, and we definitely value that partnership. So when we talk about AFRL, we kind of organize ourselves around technical competencies. You can see there, I won't read all of them. I'll talk primarily to my organization, which is the Human Performance Wing, where we deal with everything associated with training, decision-making, bioeffects. So we look at the effects of non-lethal weapons on both our operators as well as our targets, and then human-centered ISR for information surveillance and reconnaissance. You guys have probably heard over the last couple of months a big uptick in space research. We just formed the Space Force, which is a separate command for the United States, and we work directly with them as well across all of our different technical competencies. With you guys being associated with the Manufacturing Center, one group that you definitely need to interact with and to be introduced to is the Materials and Manufacturing Directorate. They are the primary arm for all things manufacturing for the Air Force. So they do structural materials, functional materials, any type of manufacturing technology. So they do a lot of the additive manufacturing, a lot of the laser additive stuff. And then we do a lot of support for operations as well. So if you need information or contacts at some of these different locations that you need some insertion to, please definitely visit our website, which is airforceresearchlab.com. You can find a lot of information about areas of interest, technology needs that we have across the different directorates. So our job as the research arm of the U.S. Air Force is to really take science and turn it into capability. And we do that across the time frame. So our Air Force Office of Scientific Research is our basic research funding arm, and they are primarily focused on far-term needs. Things like hypersonic, things like directed energy, things like quantum computing. They are kind of our venture capitalists for the Air Force, and they are providing the seed funding for what the next Air Force will look like. But across Air Force Research Laboratory, we also fund a lot of things that are for the Air Force of today, solving some of their technology needs. So we put about 15 to 20% of our annual funding into providing capabilities for the Air Force for today. But we also like to continue looking at research and development for the near and far term. Because our job is to lead the discovery, development, and and integration of all warfighting technologies for our aerospace and cyberspace forces. As I mentioned, we work a lot with small business, with academia, with industry. You can see there some of our historical investments across academia. We do a little bit over $300 million with universities. Over $1 billion typically goes into small businesses, and that's primarily through our SBIR, STTR programs, but we do also do direct contracts with small business. So for those of you who are actively engaged in SBIRs and STTRs, you should know that there's an open call right now through AFWorks that's open through February 18th. You can go there, and the purpose of the open call is really to identify technologies that you already have as a small business that could potentially be dual used for military purposes. So if you have a technology that you think is viable, please definitely go to AFWorks, AFWERX.af.mil, and search their open topic call and find some of the areas that may be of interest. If you want to find specific areas for the Air Force, for AFRL, you can also go to SBIRSTTR.af.mil, and you can search there for other opportunities as well. But that's a great way for small businesses to begin engaging with the Air Force and to kind of provide an understanding of your capabilities and our needs and see if we can find some matches there. We also work with large companies, so the Lockheeds, the Boeings, all of the big aerospace defense communities. We do about $2.5 billion of work across those groups. And then on the side, you see what our products are. We really are getting into intellectual property. We do a lot of patenting, and then we also license a lot of patents that we develop. So you can also go to, I'll have to look up the information, but there's a technology hub that I think it's called TechLinks that provides a listing of all of the intellectual property that's been developed across the Air Force that's available for licensing. So if you're looking for something that you can add on to your your business operations, definitely look at that as a viable opportunity. And why are we here? Why is the Air Force? Why do we do what we do? Again, we don't live in a vacuum. You guys are aware of the challenging issues we have with our near peers, so China, Russia, and other rogue states, North Korea. We're in a state of limited budgets, even more so now with the coronavirus and COVID that we're dealing with. That's drawing a lot of our resources. So we're having to make do with a lot less in these times. And when we do that, we have to leverage new industries. So we look to industry to help supplement where we're falling short in limited budget. So we're looking at what Amazon is doing with their UAVs and their remote deliveries. We're looking at what Google and Facebooks are doing. But we don't want to leave out the small businesses, because a lot of the innovation happens in some of the smaller companies, because you have the flexibility and the agility to adapt and provide new capabilities for the Air Force. I will talk about cyberspace and contested environments, but those are our key issues as well. So our job is to, again, enable the future capability. And you see there, human performance is at the forefront for us in particular, because every system that we operate has a human that has to make a decision within that system or to operate within that system. We're also interested in, additive manufacturing is a huge area, especially now that we're starting to look at forward deployed bases and not having materials on hand that we need to, we don't want to have a large logistics tail in terms of transporting a lot of supplies. So being able to manufacture on demand in situ at a forward location is a key area for us. Some other areas, just in case your backgrounds are there, we're interested in being able to navigate not using GPS, so alternative ways of navigation. Cyberspace is huge right now, so any type of network capabilities, electronic warfare. As I mentioned, we just had the stand up of a Space Force. They're going to be going through a lot of growing pains over the next couple of years. Really, they're going to start looking at what their technology needs are, and I think there's going to be a huge uptick in investment in space R&D. All right, but I'll talk about two specific challenges that we're looking for some solutions on from the human performance wing perspective. But again, if these aren't in your bailiwick of technical capabilities, please make sure that you go to the websites and look across our Air Force Research Laboratory for other areas to participate in. So one of our technical competencies within the human performance wing is a training technical competency. So we want to be able to provide new technologies to really help meet our evolving mission objectives. We deal with complex, dynamic operating environments that require a lot of processing of information. And a previous general said, we moved from wars of attrition to wars of cognition. So we have to be able to, our success will be determined by the speed and quality of our decisions and how effectively we can adapt to rapidly changing situations. So what we see is that, training is isolated from our acquisition community. We typically get trained on systems that we acquire, but we don't really get trained in terms of new technologies and new ways of digesting information and providing new capabilities to our operators. So, the development and testing of new AI and AI capabilities have not really been connected to human-centered type design concepts, interface designs, or really being able to maximize how we team humans and machines together. We from the capability side and from the operation side, we don't really, the training is isolated from our operations and tech transfer plans. So One thing that we're looking for, we need to look for new approaches to readiness, and this is a completely wide open area. What type of ecosystems do we need to begin investing in that support real-time reconfiguration and adaptation, where we can really interact and train side by side with these autonomous systems so that we can become better teammates on the battlefield and operationally relevant environments. And that's where, VR and AR are playing a huge role today, and we're doing a lot of investment in those areas. So if you're a company that's in that forefront of implementing VR and AR for training, please reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you guys, or reach out actually through the MBDA, and they'll put you in contact with the right folks within our organization. So that's one area that we're interested in. A second area that's kind of related to this, but not necessarily dealing with the actual training, but we're looking at ways of accelerating learning as well. So that's a key component of training is how can we train faster? How can we train more effectively? And we're starting to look now at advanced neural interfaces, brain-computer interfaces, different types of technologies that connect directly or can read and understand the processes that are taking place in the brain. So understanding the learning state that the brain is in, looking at how we can interface different types of machine learning or any other types of BCIs to help speed up that process. We do things like non-invasive neuromodulation. We're looking at EEG. We're looking at FNIRS. You've seen a lot of the work right now from the Halo and the Google Glass, really being able to synthesize information from the environment and present it to the brain in a better way, so that we can learn in a more rapid fashion. So being able to adapt the content delivery and really reduce the amount of time it takes for our training to take place. We're primarily doing this right now in pilot training, so being able to reduce the time to train our pilots to become more capable. But we're also interested, one of the big things right now is a term called multi-capable airmen. And so historically, airmen have been trained for specific jobs in specific fields for specific things. But as we become a leaner Air Force, there's a big need for being able to cross-train our airmen in a more rapid fashion. If somebody is doing logistics for an F-35, how hard is it to adapt and give them new content so that they can do logistics for an F-22? Completely different planes, manufactured by two different manufacturers, but there are some similarities. It's still a plane. How can we actually get them up to speed in a faster basis? You guys have seen some of this, in the movies. Our researcher that works in this area likes to talk about the Matrix, and being able to plug into the brain and dial up a helicopter piloting need if he wants to do that, or he did the martial arts or something like that. Those are science fiction, and we're trying to bring those to reality. Primarily, like I said, in the pilot training, we're trying to increase our learning rate by over 35% in terms of flight tasks. We want to increase our throughput because we actually have a shortage of pilots right now. And then, of course, cost. As I said, we're dealing with limited environment. So anything that we can do to provide savings in our training environment is especially interesting for us as well. We're working a lot with industry in some of these areas, Facebook, Neuralink, Microsoft, but there's still plenty of room for small business to come in and provide some capability for us as well. Our job, we really want to be able to extract more information from the brain. We want to be able to provide sense making, for our autonomous systems and our machine learning systems for what the brain is trying to accomplish, and be able to communicate in a more seamless fashion. And then outside of the pilots, we're also interested in other Air Force domains, virtual maintenance training. How do we do tactical augmented reality? How do we do cyber training? My organization is also one organization within the Air Force that has a medical mission as well, being a human performance. So we have a School of Aerospace Medicine. We do air evacuation and transport. So we're interested in medical training skills as well. And again, we just had the stand up of the Space Force. So space warfighting skills, what is that going to look like in the future? And then all of those are tied into, advanced visualization and presentation of information to our users. So those are the two areas that I wanted to highlight during this talk. But again, we have a huge swath of other needs across all of our technical directorates. And if those areas are more of interest, please definitely reach out through our Air Force front door. They'll be able to connect you with point of contacts within all of the technical directorates. Or if you have a SIBR or STTR point of contact, please reach out through them, and they'll make sure you get put in touch with the right folks. So with that, I'm going to stop here and see if we have any questions that I can help answer.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Stargell. That's very exciting. I mean, it's a really exciting time for our companies today to really participate at the front end of the development of this training, simulations, and things like that that's going on right now. So what we'll do is Brandy will help us manage the questions, I'm sure, and hoping that we'll have plenty of discussion and questions. If you could raise your hand and unmute, right? Can you see people, Brandy, on your side?
At the moment, I don't see any hands in the air, but I want to give you a couple of options. You put a question in the chat. There's also a Q&A box down there. You can use either one, and you can make it an open question so that everyone in the room can see. Or if it's something that you'd rather ask privately, pardon me, you can send it just to me, and then I won't mention your name, but I will share the question, Dr. Stargell. So we have two raised hands, and I want to start with Bronwyn Morgan. Bronwyn, I know from here in Atlanta, and she's an extraordinarily innovative person. Bronwyn, can you unmute yourself? Are we set up that way today? No, I don't. I think we might not be set up that way. Bronwyn, do you want to send me?
Brandy, I just unmuted her. I was able to unmute her.
Okay.
Bronwyn, do a sound check. Hey, Bronwyn, do a sound check for me. Nope, she may be having some problems on her end.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know, something's going on with my headset. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. This has been very informative. And thank you, Dr. Stargell. How soon are these opportunities open and available? I have had a chance to sit through the Air Force Innovation Week. I guess that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was definitely, there was a lot to digest. I am working on a concept, and literally as you were talking, I was just checking it off. I'm like, yep, we do that, we do that, we do that. How soon is the SBIR or STTR open at this point in time?
So the SBIR is an annual thing, so they typically do it quarterly. They'll have calls that happen every quarter. The current application for open topics is open till February 18th. So this is the 20.3 open topic that you can find on afworks.af.mil or afirstttr.af.mil. That's open till February 18th, but then there'll be other calls. So even though this is 20.3, we'll soon do 21.1, 21.2, 21.3. So it happens about every 3 to 4 months that the SBIR opens up for topics.
Okay, great. We were just working through some discovery, so this is good to know on the timing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bronwyn. I see a hand raised from James Freeman. And James, let's see if Aisha can unmute you, and then let's do a sound check. Can you speak, James? Can we hear you?
Yes. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, great. What's your question, please?
Awesome. I just want to say thanks. This is my first time attending to Brandy. We've had great conversations. And Dr. David, that was really informative. I really like the sustainable training ecosystem slide deck. So I work with AFSOC on a regular basis. I'm right below Fort Bragg. And I'm the facility where AI, UAS, electronic warfare, and signal reduction gets to meet. And I say that because I see all the rules and regulations to get that done on a military installation. And having a private property like I have that has SOCOM authorizations for electronic attack and airspace makes it valuable for soldiers to be able to see that sustainable ecosystem. So my question is, I'd like to be able to see if I can get that slide deck or that particular slide again, Dr. David, just to review and do a deep dive onto it, because I'd like to be able to come back to folks at AppWorks or yourself and discuss that even more. As we're having constant communications with the Secretary of Defense in AI and autonomy and what that looks like on a military installation, I'd like to be able to see if Dr. David would like to include some of those or be inside some of those conversations, because there's a big discussion right now. Does the Secretary of Defense take AI and autonomy away from a military installation and put it on private property? And then what authorizations does that have to have on private property? And how does that meet with the readiness plan of each particular unit? Because as I work with multiple SOCOM units at different tier levels here out of Fort Bragg, there's a great discussion of one particular unit doing one thing, and then another one doing another, and then another one doing another, when they're really trying to do the same thing. And there's a discussion of how so many different levels between that don't get a chance to meet at the table and kind of share their ideas. My question is, if Dr. David will be able to share those slide decks, I'd like to do a deeper dive into them, reading them independently, and to be able to ask some different questions. And then I also would like to see if Dr. David would be interested in joining some of the Secretary of Defense conversations we have.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. We work a lot with the SOCOM community as well, so definitely interest there. Yeah, happy to help wherever I can. I think we'll be able to send the slide deck out through MBDA if you registered. That shouldn't be an issue. These have all been cleared for public release. And then, yeah, if you work through MBDA and they connect you with me, we can definitely put you in touch with our core technical competency group that actually does training, because we kind of view ourselves, like you said, the SOCOM units go out and kind of do their own thing, and we try to be the honest broker to provide the technology options and the decisions for them when they're doing their analysis of alternatives, so that they're not developing, 5 different systems that may not then cooperate with each other in the future. So yes, definitely would be interested in working with you on that going forward. And then yes, we'll have the MBDA team send out the slides, and we can get a more in-depth deck if we have specific interest in the training ecosystem type work. We can definitely get that as well. Over.
Thank you, Dr. Stargel. We have a question that was in the chat. I'm not sure who this came from. It says, do you offer opportunities relating to designing and planning safety programs, such as a systems safety worker safety program?
All right. Could you read that one more time, Brandy? I missed some of it.
Yes, sorry. Do you offer any opportunities relating to designing and planning safety programs? As an example, a safety program for safety workers.
Historically, we have not. That's typically the purview of the Lifecycle Management Center. They handle. There's an Air Force Safety Office as well. We primarily work on the research and development side. So if there was new research that had to go into the development of a safety system, we could potentially be involved there. We have done work in the past with pilot neck and back pain issues. So that's a safety issue for ejection from aircraft. So it really gets down, it has to be, we have to find out more information about which area of safety we're talking about. If it's a research and development area, then it could potentially fall within our organization. If it's an operational safety, that typically happens at the installation level or through the Air Force Safety Office.
But either way, reach out to Brandy and we can make the connection to the appropriate part. If Dr. Stargell is not the entry point, then maybe he can help direct us to that. And then I just wanted to add for the person, James, from the last conversation, that we are recording this, so that recording will also be made available to all of the attendees today.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you, Dr. Stargell. I see that Marilyn Jackson has her hand raised. Marilyn, let's see if Aisha can undo.
Yes, hi, good afternoon.
There we go. Hey, Marilyn.
Hey, good, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Stargell. Great overview, great presentation. We're currently preparing our response to the current open SBIRs. And we have built a cognitive control engine and architecture in association with some of the work that we've been doing with Microsoft. So I'm very interested to know what, if any, pilots that you may have or what evaluation has occurred to date in the whole BCI and BMI areas that would be of interest, or maybe that we could engage in for research to make sure that we're aligning our product with the needs of the Air Force.
So let me just clarifying question. So are you asking if we have any data that can be shared, or just interested in areas that we are currently working in BCI for pilots?
Well, there were a couple of topics inside of the SBIR that kind of divided, I guess, today's topic into 2 or 3 different areas. And one was around the accelerated learning model, and the other one was around the operator analytics and training, et cetera. So we were kind of up in the air in terms of where do we put our whole BCI kind of cognitive engine solution forward in terms of our response. So I was just trying to get a little bit more clarity to see if there was maybe something on the back end that was connected in terms of those areas.
Off the top of my head, I'm sure there is. I'd probably have to put you in touch with our researchers that are working in those areas. And we typically do that during the pre-release cycle of the SBIR, which is probably over for this cycle. Yeah, I'm sure we can get you some information. I can't go into everything that we're currently doing for pilot training right now that has to do with cognitive engines. So we do a lot of cognitive modeling as well. But I'd be happy to put you in contact with some of our researchers, and they can help steer you in the right direction for research that could be viable for insertion into some of our pipelines.
That would be awesome. We're very interested on the decision intelligence side. So anything in that particular area would be of interest to us.
Yeah, so Don, I'm not sure how you want to handle their actions. You want them to submit requests through you guys, and then it'll come to me, and we'll find a person to put them in touch with?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I meant to say at the beginning when I was talking about NEXTTECH is that we're fine-tuning the process. That's why we have a smaller group today than, before we had a lot of people on the line who just didn't really fit. So Brandy has been doing, and one of our students has been doing the work to identify companies, many on the line of whom are our clients. So Brandy will manage that process. Just reach out to her and we'll connect appropriately.
Okay, and I think if you go to afresearchlab.com, I think we have a front door that also provides an opportunity for you to put in some keywords, and it'll identify POCs across the Air Force as well. So I would do both routes. Go to the website and use the front door because we're kind of using that as a matchmaking as well. And then reach out directly to me through Donna at MBDA, and I'll definitely put you in touch with our cognitive folks.
Yep.
Great, thank you. I had one more question here, and I'll read this out. It says, and this is a person whose name is not familiar to me. It says, my company is in the training space. How do we connect directly to show our product? And I'd like to start by saying I'd like to talk with this person a little bit more and understand what the product is. And then, Dr. Starkle, how is that process? Do you often have potential collaborators or vendors or suppliers come and present to you or do demos for you?
Yeah, so it happens a couple different ways. First and foremost, if you get connected to the SBIR STTR program and finding the right POCs, sometimes they'll do that one-on-one if they'll bring you in. The second one, we typically have tech days at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and probably at other Air Force installations as well that are opportunities for industry to come in and demo their systems for us. So we also participate in those. I think here at Wright-Patterson we call it Wright Dialogue with Industry, and it's a forum that allows small businesses and industry to come in and demonstrate their established systems and work with the different organizations across Wright-Patterson. Depending where you are geographically, there may be a closer venue for you to participate in. Outside of that, we've gone virtual, with COVID. So being connected with, the right POC, you can do a virtual demonstration, over Zoom or WebEx or Skype. We can also support that as well.
Awesome.
Thank you. I see Dr. Billy D. Brown has his hand raised. Dr. Brown, let's see if Aisha can unmute you.
It looks like he's unmuted.
Dr. Brown, can we do a sound check? Can we hear you? Not yet.
Hear me now?
Yes, yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, it didn't work with my headset. Dr. Stargell, it's great to meet you. I am actually working with the MBDA team as well as a program advisor, and I work for the Manufacturing Institute at Georgia Tech. But I just had a couple of questions. I know you don't speak for the entire AFRL, right, Pat? But I am collaborating with a company as well. And I'm sure that they would be interested in this, and they may not be on the call now, but I was curious about if you guys had some topics or could be SBIR or just general interest in these areas, for instance, radiation shielding of electronics in space or heat transfer for cooling of electronics. Is that an interest area?
Yeah, that's definitely an area that we have researchers actively working in. Again, that's not my area for the human performance side, but again, if you reach out through that front door, or if you reach out to me through Donna, I'll put you in touch with both our materials and manufacturing director as well as our systems director. A lot of the work's being done for shielding and things like that are done out of our systems because they have to protect the equipment that we're using for sensing.
Got it. Also, you mentioned additive manufacturing. I was curious if there were particular aspects of additive that you guys were interested in.
The big one that we're interested in right now is certification and qualification of additive systems. That's a big one for us right now. We've been dealing with additive systems for probably a decade now, but being able to, make them certified for flight and being able to do non-destructive evaluation and, all of the other systems that we do for traditional materials, I think are going to be key for our additive as well.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm getting them feedback. I don't know if that's just me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comment.
I think I have one more question. This one actually came to me by email, and I put it in the the chat for the panelists. The question is, if we have a concept based on previous investigation to directly apply to the problem of training or monitoring, enhancement, facilitation, how do we go about applying for support to do a feasibility study for a later proof of concept demonstration study?
So that's actually exactly how the SBIR system is set up right now. The phase ones are typically a 6-month feasibility study. And then they have a phase 2 that you come back. So the phase ones, I think between $60,000 or $100,000 for the feasibility study. And that requires you to identify a Air Force partner or a military partner that is interested in the results of your feasibility study, and then they would be kind of your transition agent for the actual prototyping or any other development that happens in phase 2 of the SBIR program. So the SBIR is exactly set up for that, where we're awarding a huge number of phase 1s just for feasibility studies. And again, I pulled the dates up. So the current solicitation closes February 18th of this year. The next solicitation will open April 21st of 2021 as a pre-release, and then that will close on June 17th. And then the third one for this year will be August 25th through October 22nd. So definitely some windows for you guys to start developing some networks and building some open topics for submission.
Thank you for that. I want to mention to everyone in the audience, if you've raised your hand, it's likely still up. And if you've already spoken, then I think that I've answered your question. So if you could lower your hand and then raise it again if you have a second question. I want to answer whatever questions we have. So this one came through the Q&A. This says, technology that measures training in real time to predict long-term memory and performance. Is this technology of interest, Dr. Starkle?
Okay, I missed the first part of the question. Could you read it one more time?
Yes, of course. We have technology that measures trainee learning in real time and helps predict long-term memory and performance.
Yeah, we have active research in that area. We actually have a researcher that has a patent on predictive performance optimization. So there is definitely interest in how we learn, how we retain learning, and how we optimize training intervals to enhance learning. So yes, that is an active area of research for us. Tying that to learning management systems and understanding what type of metrics are necessary as well are key areas for us.
I have a question here. Is the discovery process to speak with a POC still open with the agency, or is it closed now since the SBIR application process is active?
I'll have to check the regulations. I think it's closed. I think you can have open discussions between the pre-release and the opening of the solicitation. But again, that will be a continuous process. There will be another pre-release time frame that you will be able to have that open conversation. The next month would be April 21st through May 19th would be the open time frame for discussions. Don't quote me on that in terms of whether or not you can actually talk to them now, because I haven't been involved that closely with the SBIR this year. You may still be able to reach out through the SBIR office, and they may tell you that you can reach out and contact some individuals.
Thank you. We have a question here for you asking about your role at the Air Force Research Labs. What type of education and workforce development activities do you...
Repeat the last part. What type of workforce development and...
What type of education and workforce development activities are you working on?
So, let's see. So me personally, my PhD is in mechanical engineering. I've worked for 3 different of the Air Force Technical Directorate. So I actually came out of aerospace systems. So I used to do fatigue and fracture mechanics and sustainability for aircraft. I then went to AFOSR, where I was a basic research program officer and did a lot of work with academia and industry across the world, funding basic research in the area of structural mechanics. And then about 5 years ago, I came back to Wright-Patterson to be in the deputy chief scientist role for the human performance wing, which is completely outside of my area. So in terms of workforce development, that's required a lot of learning on my side to kind of understand the psychology and the different technologies that we're dealing with for the human performance. But we also do a lot of internship programs. So we work a lot with students. We bring in undergraduates. We bring in graduate students. We bring in postdocs. I run our internship program as well for the organization. And we just started a program that we call, it's almost like a fellows program, where we're bringing in skill sets that are not typically, we actually have over 72 different types of skill sets within our organization. But that still doesn't cover everything. We're doing a lot of stuff right now in big data. We're doing a lot of stuff in gaming and trying to understand, uncertainty analysis for different types of things. So we have a program now where we're bringing in people on temporary slots. So they're coming in for 3 years, and we're putting together development plans for them to either transition into a civilian position or to have them prepared to move into academia as professors. Then we have a whole lot of other workforce development activities. We're big on our junior force, so we have a lot of innovation and seedling programs for our junior force to get to the point where they are comfortable with putting in larger proposals to other organizations and really helping them develop their networking skills, putting them in touch with small businesses and with universities and getting them to understand the ecosystem of defense. So yeah, we have a lot going on. Over.
Any more questions?
I think that's all the questions. I just went through and asked, make sure I got everyone. I think we did. I have a couple of people who want to follow up with me, so I'm excited. I'm going to talk to some cool people later this week. Donna, I think it's back to you now.
Okay.
Before you go, I think Tracy Grace had a question. Her hand is raised.
It's down now. Tracy, did you have, it's up now. Okay, there you go. Tracy?
Hi, how are you? This is Tracy Grace. Yes, I actually posted it also in the chat. It was regarding the real-time training, and I think you mentioned that you had the patent there. So we do have some advanced technology utilizing wearables that we would like to present some additional information on, and we're hoping there was interest in that. As well as the data analytics side, we have data experts on our staff, so that would definitely be of interest of how we could tie that to metrics as well as the LMS.
Yeah, that'd be great. We have a whole group of folks that do the wearables work. So wearables for confined operations, being able to monitor our people in dangerous environments, as well as wearables just for the human performance side. I'd be curious to hear more if you actually have wearables that are tied to the learning training side. That would be interesting to see which route you took there.
Yes, it is with the training side. So it gives real-time feedback, and it's an exciting technology.
Yeah, definitely reach out. Be happy to have that discussion.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, well, before we sign off, we have a couple more slides. But Jamarcus, did you want to sign off with Dr. Stargell, or are you there? I know you're there. You are.
Yes, Don, I'm here. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Stargell. He did a great job announcing the challenges, and that was a wonderful overview of AFRL and what his division is responsible for. And I really felt like we did a great job identifying some of the candidates on the line today. So I'm looking forward to working with Brandy to conduct some of the follow-ups. So I'm excited, too, to follow up with some of the companies that have some interesting technology and to get them in front of Dr. Stargo. So I want to thank all the attendees for joining the NEXTTECH event today.
All right. So let me see. There we go. So here's Brandy's phone number as well as her email. So we have all of your connections as well, and I know Brandy and Jamarcus will be reaching out to individuals to follow up so that we can push this along. As I've mentioned before, Dr. Stargo and his group are avid supporters of this program, and he's not going away, right? We're kind of connected at the hip, so we'll continue pushing forward in 2021. I just wanted to say also that, as you know, as we come off of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were awarded some funding to help assist companies through the CARES Act, and so we did launch last year our CARES Assistance Program and continue to provide training and consultations around specific areas such as health and safety for the workforce, as well as for your employees and your family, as also coaching and managing your employees in a virtual environment. So we're working to bring those types of that type of training and education to you, and we continue to work with our companies on identifying grants and opportunities for funding, as well as many of you know, the third round of the Payment Protection Program, PPP, just opened. So our finance contractors, Sky Capital Ventures, and business to banker Anita Davis and Jennifer Passy have been working very hard to help our companies apply for the PPP program. So continue to stay in touch with us. We're doing pulse checks and pivot strategies. We had a Network of Champion meeting just a week or two ago with clients, and it was great. Clients got on the line and were able to just network and talk and meet each other. So we invite you to continue to stay engaged with our centers. This introduction to OSHA for small businesses we will conduct on this Thursday. Many people think OSHA is for manufacturing and construction, but there's a lot of compliance requirements and issues and things for small businesses that they may or may not be aware of when it comes to OSHA. So we have our Safety and Health and Environmental Services group from Georgia Tech, who has partnered with us to bring this training around health and safety. Here again is where we're working with Cummings Management on managing a virtual workforce. And so in February, we're focusing on how to really use a lot of these virtual tools. And then also in February, we'll be talking more about how to manage your workforce during these times and going forward. I just want to say that many of us don't really know what working will look like in the future. Most of us, many people that I talk to, and I certainly feel that we will not go back to what it was. We will go forward to some kind of hybrid between face-to-face interactions and teleworking and commuting and working virtually. So all of us are working through that and how you manage your workforce during this new age. Finally, our NEXTTECH 2021 will be March 16th. So stay tuned for new challenges and new opportunities. And thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you again, Dr. Stargo and the Air Force Research Laboratory, and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, everyone.